welcome back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany and today I am sharing a little birthday book haul with you. It's actually not that little. So many of you sent me so many wonderful gifts, so thank you to everyone who sent me something. Some people sent me books, some people sent me capybara stuff, which I'm not going to be sharing all of that stuff here. I'm just going to be sharing books and bookish gifts. And then I also received like some gift cards, one to McKay's and one to Thrift Books. And so I am just so grateful. I really enjoyed taking a McKay's trip in the midst of all this too. You've probably seen my McKay's book hauls, but it's an amazing used bookstore that is 2 stories and I love it so much. I always find so many amazing things there. So I was really excited to have like an additional excuse to take a trip. I was already going to do that with birthday money, but then when I got a gift card on top of it, it was perfect. So I'm going to have this split according to genres. That way you can skip around and see what I got for each genre if there's one genre that you're more interested in than others. Let's start with classics because I have one thing here that is not a book that I want to share with you, and it is classics related. So my friend Whitney Drew got me a whole bunch of stuff, and I'll get to the other stuff that she got me in a bit, but she got me this little bust of Dostoevsky, which I love so much. Is going to be perfect on my shelves. I also had a sweet subscriber, Dina, send me a Thrift Books gift card, and I ended up purchasing 4 books with that, and 2 of those were classics. They've not yet arrived yet, but I wanted to include them in this haul. So the first one is Jim the Boy, I think by Tony Early, I think is the author. Again, I don't have it with me. This is a story of a boy who is growing up on a farm, I think, with like his uncles or something like that. I don't know. It's very like small town America, coming of age kind of a thing. And so I'm really excited to read it because both Dia and Penny read this book earlier this year, and both of them really want me to read it. They both think I would enjoy it based on other books that I have read. So I'm super excited that a copy of that is coming. Another recommendation from Dia is The Road Past Altamont by Gabrielle Roy. I also own The Tin Flute by Gabrielle Roy, which I think is her more famous work. I think she's a Canadian author. I don't remember a whole lot about this book. I just remember Dia recommending it to me and saying it was lovely and she thinks that I would enjoy it. And Dia's book recommendations are always spot on. So I'm sure I'll like it. Another classic that I received from Whitney actually is October Country by Ray Bradbury. I mentioned this in my TBR. So this is a collection of short stories. I love Bradbury, and so far all of his short stories that I've read have been 5 stars, absolute perfection. So I'm really excited not only to read more Bradbury, but especially Bradbury short stories. I think the rest of the classics here are all from McKay's. So starting off, we have Fantasies from George MacDonald. I've not yet read this. C.S. Lewis loved George MacDonald and considered him like almost like a literary mentor. And this is a book that was really influential in C.S. Lewis coming to Christ, and he loved this book. So it says it's a fairy romance. I never see this used anywhere, and there were like 3 or 4 copies of it at McKay's. So obviously I picked one up. Also in the short story realm, I found The Troll Garden by Willa Cather. So this is a collection of Willa Cather short stories, and I don't know how many are here. Looks like 7 of them. I have another short story collection that has one of these in it, which is Paul's Case, but I haven't read the other 6. I also found a Sir Walter Scott book that I've never even heard of called Old Mortality. So I don't know anything about it. It says it's the story of 2 sets of cruel and bloody bigots at war in the late 17th century of Scotland, one of the leanest, swiftest, and starkest constructions in the whole of fiction. The story opens dramatically with the repercussions of the murder of the Archbishop of St. Andrews by a group of Covenanting Whigs and spans 10 years of tumult, from the defeat of John Graham of Claverhouse by the Covenanters at Drumclog and the victory of the Duke of Monmouth over the Covenanters at Bothwell Bridge to the aftermath of the Battle of Killiecrankie in 1689. Interesting. I have heard so many good things about Diary of a Nobody by George Grossmith, and as you can see, this was only 90 cents, so I was absolutely thrilled to find this. This would be perfect to pick up in Victober, but my Victober TBR is already probably too full to do that, so maybe next year. A book I am reading for Victober that I didn't own, so I only had it digitally through Project Gutenberg, but I was really hoping I could find a physical copy of, is Three Men on a Bummel by Jerome K. Jerome. I read Three Men in a Boat last year, and then I was looking for Three Men on a Bubble and found this Penguin edition for $1.50 that has them both, and it's basically in brand new condition. I also found a Misc book. I have another one of her books and I haven't read it yet, but I keep hearing people talk about her books being very, very cozy. This one is Village Cemetery, and I have another one that has something to do with the school. They're a series. I don't know if they have to be read in order, so that's something I'm gonna have to investigate, and if so, where this one falls, but it was $1, so I took a chance. I also found this collection of short stories by Oscar Wilde, and the main one is The Canterville Ghost, which I read a couple of years ago during Victober. It's hilarious and so much fun. And then I looked through and I didn't own any of the other short stories that were also in this collection, so I was really excited to find it. This last one was in the free bin outside, and I see why. It's Ruth by Elizabeth Gaskell, and I'm guessing the reason that they couldn't sell this is because it's like huge and a weird format, which happens all the time with public domain books like this, because if it's public domain then anyone can publish it. And so yeah, this isn't the format that I would have chosen, but I don't own this and I want to read more Elizabeth Gaskell, so since it was free I went ahead and picked it up. And the last classic that I have here is one that I have never seen used anywhere but I've wanted to read, and that's Heart of a Dog by Mikhail Bulgakov. So I read The Master and Margarita the summer that I started my booktube channel, and it has stayed with me. I just still don't know how I feel about aspects of it, but I also think it's brilliant. I don't know, there's just, the whole book was like a fever dream, honestly. Super interesting, but I really wanted to read more Bulgakov, and I see The Master and the Margarita every single time that I am at McKay's, but I've never seen Heart of a Dog. So I was really excited. All right, let's move on to nonfiction, starting off with 2 more books that Whitney got me. So the first one is she got me Mangchi's Korean Cooking, and this is Christy's favorite food blog, I think, like Korean food blog, and I've tried a couple of her recipes, so to have her actual cookbook is like really exciting. Everything in here looks really delicious and I can't wait to make something. And then Whitney also got me Nothing to Envy by Barbara DeMick. So this is a journalist's compilation of interviews and conversations that she's had with North Korean defectors. And this is another book that Christy has highly recommended to me and really, really enjoyed. I say enjoyed, I mean, it's very tragic and difficult to read at times, but I was really, really excited to get this, and it was really funny because I took a picture of everything that Whitney sent me and sent it to Christy and was like, this feels like a really Christy coded haul. Like almost everything that's in here is something you've recommended to me. I mentioned this book in my October TBR also, and this one came from Dia, but that is Dickens Land by Lee Jackson. And this book is about what London looked like at the time of Dickens. So I'm planning to read this during the month of October, and then I can kind of dip in and out as I want to and hopefully find some interesting little tidbits. I am teaching a British literature class at our homeschool co-op right now for the high schoolers, and we're doing a Christmas Carol in December, and so I think I might also find some interesting things to pull into the discussion and background information that I give my students. I also found this massive David McCullough book about Truman. This is one of the only McCulloughs that we don't own because my husband is a huge fan of David McCullough. I don't know that I'm really interested in Truman's life, and Peter said he isn't really either, but he's interested in it because David McCullough wrote it, and it's in like perfect brand new condition for $1.50. And then there was another book that I found in the McKay's bargain bin out front. Well, it's not bargain, it's free. It's the stuff that they feel like they can't sell. It's called Juggernaut by Macintosh, and it says it's the Russian forces from 1918 to 1966. Now you see why I didn't hold it up, because I had to read the spine. So it's a super old book, but it is about Russia during the time of Stalin, so I'm very interested. And the last nonfiction that I have is another one that I ordered from Thrift Books. I got Adorning the Dark by Andrew Peterson. This is a book about artists and creativity and how we are created in the image of God, and God is a creator God. So how we can use our gifts and our artistic abilities to bring light to darkness, I think, is what it's about. I love Andrew Peterson so much, and Krista from Books and Jams is hosting a read-along of this in November for Nonfiction November, and I really want to join in, and it's a book I've wanted to pick up for a long time, so it's on my list. I have a couple of sci-fi and fantasies here. So I mentioned this in a video. This is technically not for my birthday, but my younger sister, while we were hanging out and at a used bookstore, bought me Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. And I have like mixed feelings about him. I've read 2 of his books and enjoyed them but didn't enjoy them. I don't know. I don't even know what it is about them because it was different things for each of the books that I've read. But I've heard like pretty universal praise for this one, and I know that it's probably very different from the 2 that I've read, and that's what's really interesting about him to me, is that the books that I've read by him were so different. So I'm really interested in this one. My sweet friend Jennifer bought me Oathbringer, which I did own Oathbringer, but I mentioned in a recent video that I do like it when my series match, but if I'm buying them secondhand and they're really inexpensive, I don't mind that much. So I had found a paperback copy of Oathbringer for like 10 cents at my library and was like, yeah, I don't care that I have hardbacks of the other books. That's fine. I can do this for 10 cents. And so she ordered me the hardback cover of Oathbringer, so that way my series now matches. Speaking of Sanderson, my friend Penny had sent me a duplicate of another book that I had received for my birthday, and I ended up returning it on Amazon, and that gave me like the leg up plus some birthday money to pre-order Wind and Truth, which is book 5 of the Stormlight Archive, which comes out in December. And I'm so excited to be getting it and to be finishing like this arc of the Stormlight Archive, because I've been reading them for like the past 1.5 years or so. So I'm really excited to finish that. At McKay's, I got a couple of middle grades that I was interested in. One of them actually is one that I've read, and so has Claire, and Claire absolutely loved it. I really enjoyed it. I gave it like a solid 4 stars. But for Claire, it was a 5-star, and that's A Wish in the Dark by Christina Soontornvat. We love her. We haven't read everything that she's written, but we've read a couple of them, and both of them we thought were phenomenal. Both of them were Newbery honors. This woman has been robbed. She has been nominated for a Newbery 3 times and has not yet won, and she really should. So this book is a middle grade fantasy that is supposed to be like a reminiscent retelling of Les Mis, and once you know that, you can see the pieces sprinkled throughout, but it has a really interesting and unique magic system, as well as being based in a Thai inspired world because the author is Thai. It's super good, and I'm really glad we own it. The other middle grade that I picked up, I don't know anything about, but I really was drawn in by the cover, and then I read the back and it sounded really good. So it is The Bookshop of Dust and Dreams by Mindy Thompson. This is about a magical bookshop that is operating during World War II. It sounds really good, and I am really excited to read this one. Okay, so wrapping up, I'm just gonna do, this is kind of like a miscellaneous element here, where I have some translated fiction, I have like another book that I don't know how to quantify it, and then also a historical fiction, so I'm just calling this miscellaneous because it's just like 1 or 2 books of each. The last book that I got for my thrift book haul was At Dusk by Hwang Suk-young. I have read multiple books by this author, and so far he is my favorite Korean author. His prose just really sucks me in, and sometimes I struggle with translated prose because it just doesn't read the same in English as it probably does in its original language. Obviously, I have not read any of them in their original language, but sometimes the dialogue or the prose feels just a little bit choppy or something like that, and so I always wonder, is this just not translating well? Is this just me? But Hwang Suk-young, I have read 2 of his books so far and really enjoyed them both, so I'm really excited to get this one. This one sounds a lot more chill than the other ones that I have read, because I read one that was a North Korean defector story, and I read one about a little boy who is living in like a garbage dump, and both of them were very tragic and horrible. Both of them also had kind of like magical supernatural elements as well. I don't know if this one does. I didn't read a ton about it, but it does have to do with a man who kind of is getting sick of the rat race in Korea and just wants to pursue something else and find more meaning and happiness in his life outside of his work, which is really interesting because I feel like I have read several books like that this year, some of them being Korean and some of them being Japanese. So it's really interesting to find another book that's like this. I don't know if it'll have that magical supernatural element as well, but I really like the cover and I'm really excited to read it. So the other translated book that I got is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa, and I own, I think it's The Professor and the Housekeeper or something like that by her, which I know is like a really cozy book, and this one is not. I don't know totally what this is about, so I'm just gonna read you a little bit of the back. It says, on an unnamed island, objects are disappearing. First hats, then ribbons, birds, roses. Most of the inhabitants are oblivious to these changes, while those few able to recall the lost objects live in fear of the draconian memory police, who are committed to ensuring that what has disappeared remains forgotten. So, super interesting. The historical fiction that I got is an Amy Tan book, and I have loved everything that I have read by her, which to be fair so far is a grand total of 3 books. But I'm really picky about my historical fiction because I feel like a lot of them are really similar or set in the same time period. A lot of so far the historical fictions that I've read by her are set during World War II, but they have to do with what's happening in China during World War II, which is an element that I don't see written very much about, so I think it's really, really interesting. This one says, this is an exultant novel about China and America, love and loyalty, the identities we invent, and the true selves we discover along the way. Olivia Laguni is half Chinese, but typically American in her uneasiness with her patchwork family. And no one in Olivia's family is more embarrassing to her than her half-sister Quan Li. For Quan speaks mangled English, is cheerfully deaf to Olivia's sarcasm, and sees the dead with her yin eyes. Then it says that Quan Li starts telling her own story about the splendor, squalor, and violence of Manchu China. So I think that this will be really interesting. And last but not least is another book that was not given to me technically for my birthday, but it was given to me around my birthday, and it's also for my friend Jennifer, and that's Home to Harmony by Philip Gulley. This book sounds like it was written for me. The way that Jennifer described it, she said that this is just such a lovely book about a small town that you can just dip in and out of and is super cozy. The inside flap says, welcome to Harmony, a tiny town hidden beneath the staple in Rand McNally Atlas. In these delightful stories, Sam Gardner, pastor of Harmony Friends Meeting, describes in warm down-home style the moving and humorous adventures of his first year leading his hometown church. It gives some examples of some of the fun stories. So it talks about the friendly women's circles chicken noodle dinner, their motto, meeting all your noodle needs since 1964. The antics of a small town evangelist called Billy Bundle, the world's shortest evangelist. So just sweet little things like that just sounds really just like a cozy, wonderful book. She said that his writing is really lovely as well, so I'm super excited to read this. Well, that's it for this book haul. Thank you again to everyone who sent me books or gifts or birthday wishes. I appreciate all of you. It was so kind. I felt very spoiled and loved on my birthday this year. I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Have you read any of these books? What were your thoughts? Are there any books that you're intrigued by or that you think that I'll enjoy that you would like to see me read sooner rather than later? I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me, and I will see you again next time.